No new users are getting locked in. All the old, I mean, I'm keeping my obligation to the old users. If you signed up for Godel and you put your credit card number in the last year up until yesterday, you're locked in. Whatever price, 20, 40, or 60. We have some people, very few people at 20, more people at 40, and way more at 60. But now we're at 80. So if you buy at 80 and we raise the price to 100, your price goes to 100. And we raise the price to 200, your price goes to 200. But the 20, 40, 60 guys, they stay 20, 40, 60 forever. And I made it no secret that I hope those guys eventually turn off, because we are going to spend $100 plus per user on content. But, you know, a deal's a deal. Yeah, nasal sprays work if the local mucosa tissue is affected by the disease. So I think the biggest selling points versus Bloomberg, I mean, to start, are price. You know, Bloomberg's $25,000 a year, but I think I guess I'll show you my whole business plan. Why not? The key is modularity, I think. So the problem with Bloomberg is it's one size fits all, and there's a lot of different types of investors. You know, maybe segmentation is another good word. Okay, so when you've got Bloomberg, let's see, is this the color Bloomberg uses, kind of? Right, so this is Bloomberg. It's 25K a year, no matter what. One size fits all. We're right now around 1K a year, right? But, you know, we are going to go up in price. But here's the thing. On Bloomberg, you get, I'm just going to do bonds, equities. Of course, you know, across all of these are things like news and things like that. But, you know, the way I look at it, I guess, is, I make a bigger thing here, is you sort of have this three-dimensional matrix. Three-dimensional tensor, I guess, or whatever. And here on the x-axis, you have, let's say, asset classes. So I just listed some of those. Bonds, equities, commodities, indices, or index futures, index prices, spot commodity futures, commodity spot, mortgages, CDS, converts, preferred, you know, you name it. Any fixed income, basically. So those are the, yeah, FX. I mean, it goes on and on. Crypto. So that's the x-axis of this three-dimensional thing. The y-axis is countries. Some of those are country-based, some of them are not. You know, you got to ask me one question at a time. So you ask me one question, I'm going to answer it. I can't stop and answer another question halfway through. Somebody asked, what's the differentiator between Godel and Bloomberg? Let me explain. Icon is not 2K a year. It can start at 4K, but Icon is fully loaded, is close to Bloomberg. No yacht fuel, sorry. You're fucked. 80 is too cheap. All right, get back to work here. So x-axis is the asset class, y-axis is the country, and z-axis is the function. So the function could be news, graph, any other thing. There's hundreds of functions, holders list, focus, etc. So basically the job is to fill out this cube as thoroughly as you can. As you guys know, we don't have every part of this cube filled out. But there's basically three things you can do to compete. This is it. Have the most asset coverage, have the most country coverage, and have the most functions. The first two are pretty easy. This is just a matter of sort of time, getting every data source locked in. And it does take time. I mean, all our competitors don't have that. TradingView, Koifin, these guys don't have where'd my thickness thing go? These guys don't have certain exotic assets, and neither do we right now. But we will have those. Some of them don't even know what exotic assets look like because they're not really traders. But we'll fill out the asset list and the country list. And then that's sort of this matrix. And so my point is, this is pretty much filled out by Bloomberg. They're missing some stuff, but it's mostly filled out. Godel's fill on this is a little bit more. Is there a spray paint brush here? I think so. It's a little bit more splotchy. There's some areas where, we are really solid, and then there's some where, we're completely missing. But that's the idea behind the XY axis. The Z axis is where things get interesting and complicated. Like options is an asset class. Well, what can you do with options? Do you just want to graph an options price? Well, that's just one dimension. That's here. That's easy. But I want to graph historical implied vol. Well, that's another dimension. I want to graph three-dimensional skew. That's another dimension. I want to do an option strategy builder and simulator. That's another dimension. So you have to fill out all those dimensions. And what's nice about that is Bloomberg doesn't have everything. There's a bunch of stuff Bloomberg doesn't have. So you can create a better cube, and then they are going to have to fill out the cube a little bit better. So our differentiator starts with price and our pricing strategy, which is if you use just equities, at least this is what I hope to do. If you're just going to use equities, you should be able to have everything Bloomberg has on equities. But if you're not going to use bonds, fixed income, or commodities or indices or mortgages or CDS or converts or FX or crypto, and you just don't need any of that, and you're only going to do US, the data we're paying for all of this stuff, but we only really pay on some of the stuff if we use it. So like our cost to service you as just a US trader is pretty low. Especially if you're not going to look at these other asset classes in other countries. So Bloomberg pays for everything, and you have to pay for everything. But for us, I think it would be reasonable to pay, I don't know, 1 to 3K a year to have like sort of a Bloomberg equivalent or better, hopefully. Like I said, there's other functions we're going to do that they don't have. But we can't create new countries that they don't have. We all know the same countries. We can't really look at new asset classes they don't have. There's only so many asset classes. We could do a couple different things in different areas, but in general, the way you differentiate is here in this function category. So we could do better quant tools. We could do better workflow tools. We could do better transaction tools. There can do all kinds of things like that. But if you're just going to be a US trader and you want the Bloomberg experience or Bloomberg plus new features, or maybe we're not going to be as good at Bloomberg at some features, whatever it is, 1 to 3K is very reasonable, but Bloomberg makes you pay the entire 25K, whether or not you use bonds. You may say, I'm never going to look at a bond. And you may say, I'm definitely never going to look at a Japanese bond. But Bloomberg is paying for Japanese bonds. And if you use them, you're paying, whether you use them or not, you're going to pay too. So I like this idea. Now, let's say you want to use equities and fixed income. And you do that in the US and Europe. Okay, well, that's sort of like half of Bloomberg to me. So maybe that's 10K a year. And, this is for a professional. This is not for, a person that's not, Bloomberg is also for professionals. So 10K a year is around 800 a month. So that has to make sense for your firm, hedge fund, sell-side firm, whatever, or it's to make sense for your portfolio. And, you'd have to be trading, around $1 million or more for that to make sense. I think the consumption-based price is up to a point. I mean, there'd be some cap. So, if you log in, so take for example, okay, you do this, you care about this, but you log in once a week and check it for 10 minutes, your bill should be pretty low. I think, because you're not really using it. But we still do have to pay for the access to the news and stuff like that. So it's sort of tough, but I think we should be able to do something at the right price. No, Zena, look, it's not a tough question at all. But Icon goes all the way up to 20K a year. The LSEG workspace. If you get a really stripped down version, yeah, maybe you can pay $200. But LSEG workspace is, I think it could be more expensive than Bloomberg if you run it the right way. Here's their product and they're a partner of ours. We buy data from them, but their system is also not terminal based. It's kind of a personally. Again, I'm not going to spend time talking crap about one of our competitors, but it's really not a great product in my opinion. But if you try it, see if you like it. If you like it, see what you like about it. Tell me about it. We'll build it too. I don't. It's really up to you. But yeah, they're trying to sort of do what we're talking about, which is have your cake and eat it too. By the way, if you have one of these logins, I'd love to pay you some money, and we can share the login.
To get ahead in today's markets, you need anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of these guys aren't really, in my opinion, traders. Like here, you got ESG scoring profile on your cell phone. Who wants this? Mobile. I mean, traders are not on trading for mobile. You might look at prices on mobile, but this is not, your
personal ecosystem for unique insights.
This is a little, this is a shipping manifest software, but if you look at this is like the main screen. You can see that it's kind of this like simple SaaS front end. It's not really a terminal. So if you know Bloomberg and you expect Bloomberg, you ain't getting it here. Look at this guy.
Work on any device and seamlessly integrate it.
Yeah, I wouldn't use this. The menus here, you got to use menus, and menus are just not practical in finance.
Into your workflow. Customize workspace to fit intuitively into your world.
Yeah, this is corny.
Discover the possibilities that our open approach offers.
Okay, here's a little bit of a script you can write. That's cool. Little Python notebook. I like that. Maybe we add that. But yeah, the full Monty for this thing is more than Bloomberg actually.
To gain the competitive edge,
So they might give you some crazy stripped down version for roughly our price, but just the data alone, costs hundreds of dollars a month.
LSEG Workspace. Supercharge your impact.
And it's meant for institutions, and they're going to try to upsell you like crazy. All right, I'm starving. Cool, Alan. I mean, if you like the product, then use that product. I think there's sales and distribution probably. I'm not sure that their product's going to get, quite frankly, as much visibility as me. Among institutions, it just hasn't sold that well. Yeah, we have alternative data coming. All right, I gotta order some food before I pass out. Yeah, of course. Alfonso. We sort of almost have that now, but I like that idea a lot. Trevere, this is the company that I started. What about it? I haven't looked at the stock in forever, but it's just a dinky company that hasn't gone very well. No, actually, I'm supposed to be the one working on the plugin. So I just have to do it. But the Microsoft has just recently changed the way you do plugins, and it's so bad. It's so hard to develop a plugin, believe it or not. We have a desktop product coming soon. Team's very busy implementing international stocks and many other cool new features. So, we release a new thing about once a week. So just checking off all the stuff we need. Oh, that's funny, Cash Moolah. Yeah, that's a company that I built. Yeah, we may do something like Robinhood. Maybe. I'm thinking about it because, the problem with Robinhood is basically their clients dump in $2,000 a month, lose it, and then just dump it in again, lose it, dump it in again. It's basically a casino. How big of a brokerage could you build if you got that, except they kept their money and just lose it? So, that's kind of the way I look at it. Yeah, free users will have streaming, yeah. I don't know Fundamental Edge. Robinhood guys are just gambling. They're betting on the app, so it's the baggy gateway. This is why Robinhood is why stuff like D-Wave and IonQ is up. I don't know if they're the future or not, BDACL. This happened in 2000 with E-Trade. They had that E-Trade baby. It's a good business. I'm not doubting the business. It's a great business. But I don't think the investors are Warren Buffett. I have a yogurt in the fridge, so I'm going to grab that. I'll be right back.